Welcome to your favorite show, Pink and Purple. My name is TIMECODE and I'm your host. So today on the show, we're going to discuss a very interesting topic, entrepreneurship with Melody Sango. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Timby. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And how are you?
I'm good.
Welcome to Pink and Purple once again. Please tell us about yourself. Who is Melody?
Okay. So my name is Melody Sango, as you said.
Yes.
I have a multitude of roles, I think.
All right.
Currently, I'm office manager for the British Council Blue Air office.
Right.
So I looked after our office here. So we do a little bit of everything from examinations to library services. We do some work in education and some work in arts. So I dip my fingers in all those pots.
Okay, all right, interesting. Would you like to define entrepreneurship for us? What is entrepreneurship?
Okay. So I'll give a very basic definition.
All right.
So entrepreneurship is pretty much the act of, designing and launching a business.
Right.
And this business can be anything from a startup, it can be a scalable startup, it can be a small business, it can even be a large company, it can be a social enterprise. So basically anything that sort of requires sort of ideas coming into fruition.
All right. Yeah. And what's the difference between entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship?
Okay. So entrepreneurship, I'll start the other way around.
All right.
Entrepreneurship is looking at somebody who's working within an organization, and they are changing things from within. So they're the innovative one who are pushing new ideas, new ways of doing things within an organization.
All right.
So they don't have the same risk as an entrepreneur. So when you're an entrepreneur, you're the one who has to worry about where am I getting the money, how am I going to start this app, who can I sell my idea to, all those things. So that's more or less the difference between it. That an entrepreneur will really have to, just go into an organization and work from within. Whereas an entrepreneur is basically starting something up and having to work through it, fix it, do the hitches and glitches until it's something that is a running product.
All right. You've mentioned the risk of being an entrepreneur, right? You said an entrepreneur there's a risk of being an entrepreneur. What's that risk?
Okay. I think it's risky on many fronts because one, for instance, the capital. Okay. How do you start up your idea and finance it? But also getting buy-in. Because when you're in a company already, you don't have to worry about do people like the idea because it's there and it's running. You're just thinking about new ways of delivering. Whereas, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to think, does my idea sell? Who will like my idea? What will happen? Where am I, going to have the services that need to actually make this enterprise function? So maybe it's an accounting, person that needs to come in. You might need a marketing person to come in. You might need, the ideas person to come in. Whereas in an organization, it's like already packaged and it's there.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's where the risk is, that everything really is at your doorstep.
All right.
Yeah.
And can anyone be an entrepreneur?
I'd like to think so. That's my personal thing.
Okay.
I think anybody can, and I think more so now than ever before because there's so many different avenues of interacting with business, also different ideas that are coming into play to solve different problems really. Yes. So I think anybody can if they have sort of the right set of characteristics, if I can call it that.
Okay, all right. We'll take a short break. Please do join us after these messages as we continue to discuss entrepreneurship. Welcome back to Pink and Purple, and I'm still here with Melody Sango. So what are the characteristics of an entrepreneur?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I think one, they have to really be passionate.
Okay.
Because one, if you're going to put an idea together, you need to understand what it is that you're trying to do, but also be able to sell it to other people. And I think it's easier to get buy-in to something that you're trying to do when people can see your passion and your zeal for what you're trying to do. You need to have a plan. You need to have a vision. What are you working towards? And can you carry people with your vision? Because remember also when you talk about finances, when you're not looking for money, people want to be able to see what the investment will pay off in. So, what the returns will be. So I think it's important to have some sort of plan that people can identify with and see. They have to be courageous, really, to be honest, because it's not always going to be easy. You're not always going to get the yeses immediately. You're not going to get people who understand you immediately. And you're not always going to have, the easy days. I mean, there might be days even within your own team or network or whatever where things are promised, things don't come through. You have to be able to wake up tomorrow and still go at it.
Yes.
You know, so it reminds me like Pursuit of Happiness. You know, like how many times did you go around trying with that machine to get people to buy into it? Exactly. So it's something like that. You have to be tenacious. Exactly. You can't give up.
Yes.
So if you're believing in something, you have to consistently push and consistently go for it.
Right.
And again, like I said, courage, because there are days when it's going to be difficult, and there are days when you're not going to feel like this is it. But I think also you also have to be able to identify your own strengths and your weaknesses. Because I think at times with entrepreneurs, it's, you know, it's not a jack of all trades situation. So you can't be in a space where you're expected to do everything. So I know personally that I'm not an accountant. Like I can do basic mathematics, you know, but I don't want to be worrying about, you know, balance sheets and all of that. And you might need somebody else who comes in who can do that particular role for you. You might need somebody else who comes in maybe and does the marketing element for you. You know, so it's thinking about those different things, that what are you really good at and what do you need help with, and also who do you get to help you, because also remember, it goes back to the vision. If people don't buy into it and people don't understand your idea, if you get the wrong people on board, the chances of that success becomes even less. So you need to be clear about what it is and how the different functions speak to each other. So it's not an easy one, is it?
It's not. But looking at Zimbabwe, I think we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are not passionate, but because it's giving me money, it's okay for that time. What would you say about that?
I think I would like to call that hustling.
Okay. That's not entrepreneurship.
No, it is. But I think it's also understanding why you're doing it. So there's a long-term goals that are associated with it. Then you also have those that are just looking for short-term impact. So the question is, are you just doing it for survival? Because that's one thing. And I think that's where hustling comes in. Because you're not really thinking about, you know, I want my business to grow. I want my business to, you know, outlive me or be passed on or to grow in this certain trajectory. You're just worried about, I need to get money tomorrow to do X, Y, Z. Whereas, you know, if you're looking at the long-term goals, you're thinking about, how do I put structures in place that will allow this to, you know, to work in a certain way? How do I move from point A to point B? So I think it becomes slightly different in that sense, that it becomes almost like there's hustling and then there's entrepreneurship, still under the same bit. But yeah,
the other is short-term, long-term. Right. And
that's my opinion.
All right. What's the role of entrepreneurs in our economy right now in Zimbabwe?
I think entrepreneurs are disruptors really at this point in time. I think in terms of changing how people perceive, you know, business, because the world is changing. We're living in a fast changing world. And the solutions of 20 years ago, 30 years ago are not necessarily the solutions that we need now. And it's almost calling entrepreneurs to be innovative. So they need to be able to, you know, to think outside the box a little bit. They need to be able to respond to change. They need to be agile. And, you know, they have the capacity to actually also contribute to employing people, to job creation and economic growth. So I think at this time they have a unique spot that they can play. But even in terms of finding solutions, because you find that, you know, whatever might work in the States, for instance, might not necessarily work here because our contexts are different. So I think you now need people who are able to look closely and identify sort of the skills that are required or the innovations that are required for our particular space. I mean, just an example, I was reading something on Generation Unlimited, and there's a group of 4 guys, I think, from Zimbabwe who've just gotten some grant funding. And their winning solution was to come up with an app that will allow for educational material to be put on this app, and then it can be taken out into the rural spaces. So teachers that are not in the CBDs in the provincial capitals also can access, you know, new and cutting information about what's going on in their particular spaces, but also still interface with technology, because now they also still need to touch base with technology and teach their kids, because now we have a new curriculum that calls for some of those things. So it allows for that interface, you know, with your community and assessing those needs.
All right. You're speaking of innovation, right? How feasible is it for entrepreneurs right now to remain relevant, you know, to technology and all the other things that are coming up?
Okay. One, it is so important. Like, I think, well, this is personally, like, again, personal view, that it's quite important for you to keep abreast with technological bits that are coming up, but also understanding how they interface with what you're trying to do. And also if you can do it or if you look elsewhere. So I think this is where the question and the conversation of hubs becomes even more important, because hubs are helping to bring together sort of, you know, people that are creatives, enterprises, you know, bringing them together into a space. It could be physical, it could be digital, but allowing them to leverage off each other's skills. So I might be an entrepreneur, but I don't know anything about setting up a website. You know, that allows somebody who's got a tech background to come in and actually assist on that particular platform. And you can find that, you know, within a hub, it's at a cheaper cost than it would be to going to a web hosting company, for instance, who might have to charge me an arm and a leg to do it. And I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have the funds to do it. So it's also about how do we balance that.
All right. And that hub word has been a buzz. You know, we've heard hubs this. What's a hub? How does it work?
It is shame. And I always underestimate how much people don't know about hubs, because I think that at our organization, we've been talking about hubs for such a long time. But it's more or less a space that allows for enterprises to come together. And you find that these hubs can pretty much be anything. They can be physical, they can be online. So when I talk about physical, you find that some possibly offer co-working space. So you're an enterprise and you need somewhere to work from. You might not be able to afford the rentals that are being charged for an office space, but you can go and rent a desk. You can rent it for a day, rent it for a month, rent it for a year, and it basically gives you a PO address. You know, people can mail you, you've got your mailbox that's there, you've got a setup where you can do meetings, and it allows you to operate at a much cheaper cost than you would if you were to go out, but also maybe for some regulatory requirements. So let's say if you're trying to register your business, for instance, you know, Zimra, all those other guys need an address. So at least you now have a working address that you can say, this is what it is that I require. You also have virtual hubs, and I think this probably falls sometimes a bit more to techies. So techies can converge online. They don't necessarily need to be in the same space. If you're an app developer, you can probably do it from home. You don't necessarily need to be in a particular space, but it depends on what your space, what your community requires of you. You can also have incubators, and incubators are basically spaces where, you know, you're trying and prototyping things. So you're finding that, you know, you might have an idea, you're not quite sure how it's going to go. Incubators, you go, you have access to, you know, a space that allows you to try out your idea, possibly even mentorship, helping you to figure out what, you know, what's next. And I think that's so important, especially in the journey of an entrepreneur, because at times your ideas might not always work out the way that you need to. So you need to kind of try it out first before you put out into the market, and then see how it works and where it requires you to pivot. So basically to turn around, to change, to move in a certain direction. You've got, you know, sort of trial grounds where you can do that.
All right. And how do I get into a hub? What are the requirements for me to have my own space? Where do I go to?
So when you're talking about hubs, at times you'll find that this conversation is more or less directed by like what we call a hub manager. So hubs congregate for different reasons, and usually have somebody who's overseeing that space. So for instance, if you're looking to have a hub that speaks to the creative industries, for instance, that can touch on a lot of things. So maybe if you're into filming, you need a space that allows you to have access to production services, editing services, all of those things. And in terms of who can be part of a hub, it's a collective of enterprises, remember. So if you are fitting into a certain niche of, you know, like what that hub will be looking for, then you should be able to access that. So it's pretty much determined by the hub managers. So it's not us, you know, that say, oh, this is what it must look like. It's a dynamic thing that changes to accommodate the needs of the community that they're serving.
All right, interesting. We'll take a short break. Viewers, please join us after these messages. Welcome back to Pink and Purple, and this is my favorite part of the show, game time.
I don't know if I'm ready.
Yes, Mel, you're going to pick a question and hand it over to me, and I will read it.
Oh, goodness. Am I signing my life away?
Maybe, you know. What is the most stupid thing you've done on your own free will?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I can't even think of anything. That was not what. No, I just know what I expected.
So you don't expose yourself.
That could be a good one, because it could be used against me later.
But I want to know. We want to know.
Oh, goodness. Yo. Can I come back to it? I have to actually think about it. I'm trying to think.
No, I think when you come back to it, you're going to lie.
So should I just pick another one?
No, say it.
Oh, my goodness. Guys, this could be probably more than 5 minutes.
Are you serious?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Guys, let's just do another question.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to it. We are coming back to this one. I'm putting it here. We're coming back to it.
All right.
Tell me 3 things you remember about your grade 1 school days.
Oh my goodness. I remember walking to school and the excitement of being allowed to walk to school, because I used to see other kids walking to school.
Okay.
So I insisted that I also wanted to walk, but it was longer than I thought it would be. So yeah, that excitement lasted
3
all
things?
of 2 days. Okay. Second thing, I think coming home. Because, you know, like my mom had a thing, and I mean, she did it pretty much all our lives, really.
Right.
But weekends, you know, like you'd get like, you get treats for like lasting the week. So end of day, like end of week, sorry, like a Friday, we get like baked goods, you know, your little bills and what have you. So she'd like bring us like fresh baked goods and what have you, which started a whole ritual in our house.
All right.
And then the third thing, yeah, actually my dad actually used to spend like quite a bit of time, so he'd focus the weekends on that. And I remember him trying to teach us how to swim.
Right.
I don't think he ever wants to do that again.
Really?
Yeah. Are there more questions?
You want to pick all of them?
So in other words,
100?
okay.
Whilst you're thinking about that
Oh
one.
goodness. Okay.
Yes, the
All
most
right.
stupid thing. Which of your personality traits has been the most useful?
I think the ability to laugh.
Okay.
Because I think there are
Right.
things in life that you can't take too seriously. So you have to be able to, you know, to pass on some things and just learn from them. And some things you just need to laugh at and carry on.
Right. You have a cool laugh, actually.
Now I'm going to be like practicing it all the
Yes.
time. Wait till you see me next time.
What is the most awkward thing you've ever seen at your work?
Oh my goodness. I don't feel like I should answer that.
Why?
Awkward or interesting?
Awkward.
Awkward
Okay,
could,
interesting.
Awkward
It
could be interesting.
Yes.
So I think was it during Shakespeare? We were commemorating Shakespeare, I think about 3 years ago.
All right.
Shakespeare's the anniversary of his death. And we had to dress up in costumes. So we're all at the Blue Theatre picking out our costumes and what have you. So I think when people walked into the office, they just didn't know what to do with us, because they walked in and all of us were in costumes.
Yeah.
You know, so all in these Victorian costumes and what have you. So I think that was probably the most interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
Seeing people dressed up looking like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
With the makeup to go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We
I
went
can't
all out.
imagine. Which song do you dance to the most?
Yo. You see, the problem is that, like with a name like Melody, I like music generally.
All right.
Actually, I blame a friend of mine because they were playing it over the weekend. I think is it Prince KB, Fetch Your Life? That's, you must just go
Okay.
look for it. Go look for it. So that's like my little anthem at the moment.
That's
It's a
one you
good
dance to the
time.
most. How do you dance to it?
Hey, I'll show you another. I'll show you on another day.
All right.
My skills, I don't think they're ready for them yet.
Okay. Right. If you had a theme song, what would it be?
I feel like it should be like that Night Rider one. Do you remember
Which
that?
one?
Remember Night? Did you? Oh,
Okay,
Are you that young?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't
So for the
expose me.
older ones who know Night Rider, I think that should be it. It just used to fascinate me,
Really?
that theme song. So I think that would be it.
All right.
Yeah.
Last one.
Okay.
Would you rather live permanently in a roller coaster park or in a zoo?
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I think the roller coaster. Because in the zoo there's snakes. I can't do snakes.
And the
So
most stupid thing you've done before we finish our game? Yes.
you know what? Can I pass? Because
Okay. I'll let you go. You know what? I'm going to let you go because I like your glasses.
Because I'm fitting in with the color scheme.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So, Melody, as we round up, two last questions.
Okay.
What are the advantages of being part of a hub for entrepreneurs?
Okay. So hubs are really great in that they tend to cut costs actually for entrepreneurs. So you find that, one, the services that you might need to get sort of within your business, you can outsource. So that makes it a bit cheaper. You only get them as you need them as compared to having somebody on your books all the time. And also hubs are a great place to network. So you find other enterprises that are operating within that space. And it's an opportunity not only to network, but also to leverage between, the different skills that you guys can offer and can actually become another way of referral. For businesses, but also engagement. I think this is especially more for the private sector, donor communities and what have you. You find that it's easier to support something with a structure as compared, to just an individual or whatever it might be. So you might find that if, for instance, if it's looking at access to training, it's easier to talk to a hub manager who obviously can talk to maybe 200 people that we might not have access to. So you'll find that it makes it much easier to have that conversation within that. And it also helps to, to build a community that responds to specific needs that are maybe prevalent within the spaces that they occupy, but also in terms of asking for the change that they want to see. And this probably is more in terms of policy and regulatory frameworks, that if there are things that are important, you have those hubs as points of conversations where people can actually come up and say, these are the issues that affect us. And you can have a body that represents you as compared to, if I make noise by myself, you make noise by yourself, there's no coherence and there's no proper structure around it.
Okay, and what do entrepreneurs have to know right now, coming from you? What do you want to say as we close?
Be very brave and know what you're doing and know why you're doing it. So I think brave simply because it's not going to be easy. And commitment. I think with I strongly believe that anything that is worth it, requires the time and also the energy. So it's almost having the patience to wait. So it's not going to be easy, but be brave and be tenacious, but also enjoy what you do. Because if you're going to sign up to do something and to involve yourself at that level as an entrepreneur, you need to do something that you enjoy. Otherwise, it's not going to be an easy journey for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. It's been lovely having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Viewers, that's all we had for you today. Remember, entrepreneurs, remain brave and committed to your work. From me, TIMECODE, and the crew behind the scenes, it's goodbye.